grocery shopping, something that we all have to do as adults, but where you do it can vary differently. And here in Norway, it has been a completely different experience for me. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing the biggest differences I've had grocery shopping here and in the US. Alright, so the first main difference I saw since being in Norway here is definitely the ambiance. You know, when I used to shop in California and I would go into the grocery stores, I was used to hearing background music. You know, there would always be some sort of popular famous song playing. And then I also remember people talking constantly. They would always be having conversations. And if I compare that to Norway when I first came here, it kind of felt like a spa to me. There was no people talking. There was no background music even, which surprised me. And it honestly just felt like people were there to get their groceries and then leave. You know, in the US, it feels like people are there hanging out, being social, talking, spending time, lingering there. But here, it's definitely been a completely different experience. Something else I noticed is here in Norway, the lights in the grocery store aren't as bright. In the US, I remember shopping and there would always be these super bright overhead lights constantly. And it kind of reminded you that you're in a grocery store. But here, it just feels like you're in a calm, relaxed place. Of course, there's occasional people talking, but for the most part, people don't talk. And I know this especially because in the US, it's really common to talk to the cashier, you know, scanning your items, say, how are you? How's your day? Or even ask them like what they're doing for the weekend. But here in Norway, that is the opposite. I have noticed that the cashiers do not like to engage in small talk, and it is actually kind of weird to ask them how they are. You know, I tried this one time, I remember, and then I got this very strange look from the cashier, and I was like, okay, maybe I shouldn't be asking that. But I think I noticed that one of the big differences was definitely the ambiance. All right, so the next major difference I noticed is the checkout experience. And I'm gonna start with the first one, which was a lot of self-checkout lanes. Now, if you decide to self-checkout, there is this very interesting rule that I haven't seen anywhere else. And that is that you cannot leave the store unless you scan your receipt. So there'll be these two glass doors, and then a little machine that you just take the receipt and you scan the barcode and the doors will open and you'll leave. Now, I'd never seen this and never experienced it, and it really threw me off the first time I saw it. I was like, what is that? And then I remember I didn't get my receipt when I first got here, and that was a whole thing, but I've gotten used to it ever since. But I thought it was very interesting because I think it's a great way of preventing people from just walking out, or it's a great way for people to remember to pay, because if you don't remember to pay, then you can't leave the store. So that was pretty cool for me to see. I never experienced that, but I think those are the main differences I've seen between the grocery stores in the checkout aspect. All right, so the next major difference I noticed are the grocery store prices. So when I first came here to Norway, I remember going to the grocery store and just being shocked at how expensive some of the items were. For example, they sold a carton of eggs, 6 eggs, for almost $7, and even a small bag of nuts for almost $10. And I was not used to seeing prices this expensive. However, I learned that most of the items in the grocery stores here are premium quality and they don't have a lot of processed ingredients. They're mostly healthy, which now it makes sense why they're a little more expensive. You know, I'm paying more for premium items, which I understand. And also I learned that a lot of the products in the grocery stores are local. So they come from 2 hours away, 1 hour away, which was really cool to learn because I'm used to a lot of the products in the US coming from other places and not really local. So that was really cool. But then also in the US, the grocery store prices are so cheap. You'll go into a store and there'll be so many options, literally like 10 different cereals for $1, $2. And those are very sugary and high processed, so those might not be the best. But you just have so many options in the US, and that is why a lot of it is cheap. So I understood now why Norway has more expensive items. And it was really great for me to see because then I don't have to spend a lot of time in the grocery stores picking what I'm going to buy. I just buy the items that are healthy because most of them are healthy, and then I leave. But in the US, you have so many options and you get so much fatigue because you're like, oh, I don't know what to pick. And it also incentivizes you to buy more. You know, in Norway, since the prices are so expensive, you don't really want to buy that many items because then you'll be paying a lot of money, right? And maybe that's why all the people here look so healthy, because they don't consume as much food. In the US, there are people that are healthy, of course, but I feel like since you have so many more options, it incentivizes you, to buy more of it. So I think that was a pretty big difference for me to see. All right, so the next major difference I want to discuss is the size comparison between the grocery stores. So when I was in the US, I would see a lot of the major grocery stores that people shopped at, for example, Costco, Walmart, and Target, and these stores were massive. So many different aisles to pick from. It literally felt like you were inside of a mall. But compare that to Norway. Oh my God, I remember first coming here and the first store I went to was Joker, which is a convenience store that most people go to on Sunday when a lot of the grocery stores are closed, and this was like 3 times smaller than an average US store. I remember having to stand sideways to let people pass me. That's how small it was. It was a crazy change, and I remember feeling so claustrophobic the first few days going in there, and it just was a huge change for me because in the US, the average grocery store has like 20 different aisles with so many options, and it's crazy. It's so overwhelming, to be honest. But here, the average grocery store is so small and you don't have that many options. It's like a couple aisles maybe, but I think it's good because you don't have to spend a long time picking what you're going to buy. You just buy your items and leave. So I think that's another major difference, is definitely the size layout. All right, so another huge point I want to discuss is the recycling and sustainability here in Norway. So back in the US, if I would recycle bottles, I would just throw them away in the recycling bin and not really worry about it too much. But here in Norway, there's a pretty cool thing you can do. So if you have cans or plastic bottles that you are done using and you want to recycle them, you can actually go to the grocery stores and recycle these in this really cool machine that you basically put the bottle inside and then it scans it and goes in this conveyor belt and crushes them and recycles them. But the cool part is you can either choose to get some money towards your groceries, which it's not a lot of money, but it's still something, or you can choose to donate the money and have a chance at winning money. So the amount you can win is pretty crazy. You can win 1,000,000 krone, which is 100,000 USD, which I don't think anyone wins. I've barely seen anybody win that. Only like 6 people have won in a year, which is crazy. But you can also win around 1,000 krone, which is 100 USD, or 500 krone, which is 50 USD, or even $5, which is 50 krone, which I've won one time, which was pretty cool. But I think this is a great system and it incentivizes people to recycle a lot and donate to a good cause. So this was really cool for me to adjust to, because in the US, you don't really care about recycling. You just throw it out and then you continue with your day. And also, I forgot to mention, the bottles have to be from Norway. They don't accept like bottles from Sweden. They have to be from Norway. So if you do that, make sure your bottles are from Norway. And then the sustainability is the fact that in the grocery stores, a lot of people bring their own bags for shopping, which in the US is not that common. And I didn't do that. I would usually just take new plastic bags or paper bags, which probably wasn't good for the environment. But now, since I'm in Norway, I have learned to always bring the same bag for shopping. So then I don't have to use a different one. I think it's great. It practices how to be friendly to the environment. You don't have to pay for a bag, even though it's not that expensive, but still, you can save money on buying a bag every time. So I think that was really cool how they incentivize people to recycle bottles in a cool way, where you can win money and donate to a good cause, or even use that for your groceries. And then also the fact that you can bring your own bags and you're incentivized to bring your own bags. You're encouraged to bring your own bags, because I never used to do that. So now I'm being good to the environment. All right, so the last difference I want to discuss are the hours of the grocery stores. Now, back in the US, you could pretty much go to a grocery store whenever you needed. They're open 7 days a week, almost all day and all night, except for a few which close at around 10 to 11 p.m. But here in Norway, after being here for almost 7 months, I still forget every weekend that the grocery stores close on Sunday. And it's crazy because every Sunday I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go to the grocery store, but then I forget, they're actually all closed, except for the one store I was talking about, Joker, but I heard it's not really that popular. People only go there if all the stores are closed. But this was a big adjustment for me because I would want to sometimes go out on Sunday to get snacks, but I couldn't because it was closed. I think it's good because it's fair to the people working. They get their day off and they get more time off, which is great if you work at the grocery store. But it definitely is something that I need to remember and work on, because it's a big difference, going from a place where you can get snacks any time of any day to stores closing a little bit early and closing on Sunday fully. It took some time for me to adjust. I'm still adjusting. But yeah, even though that's a small difference, I definitely wanted to point that out, because if you are moving here or you do come to Norway, that's a good thing to keep in mind, are that the grocery stores close fully on Sunday except for Joker, and then on the weekday they're open till around 9-10 p.m. So still pretty good, but yeah, thought that was a cool difference. All right, so that pretty much does it for the video. Those are the main differences between the grocery stores in Norway and the US and what I've experienced. So I think it's a pretty cool culture shock, and I definitely have seen a lot and learned a lot that I never knew before. Really cool. So thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you guys enjoyed, make sure you go down there and subscribe. Hit the subscribe button, leave a like, leave a comment. Let me know how the grocery stores are where you live. I'd love to hear that. Write a comment. I'll be answering all the comments, and hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day or night or morning whenever you're watching this. Thank you all. I will see you for another video in the next one. Peace. Signing off.